Hello, Foxy listeners, and welcome to episode 245. On this episode, I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about what your ideas of success are and why it's okay that they change. So let's dive in. I'm Tanya Fox, and you're listening to Fox Talks Business Podcast. I started my career in the corporate world, but always played to my own tune and loved to think outside of the box. This didn't always serve me well with the bosses, so I made the decision to become an entrepreneur. And that little seed of entrepreneurial curiosity continued to grow as I branched out into retail, service, and franchise businesses. Now, I have been fortunate to have amazing successes in the last 2 decades, but they did not come without some really big failures and even bigger lessons learned. And that's why I started this podcast, not just to share the failures, but to show you how you can turn every failure into a success. We're going to hear from some amazing humans from around the world that are going to share their stories of the good, the bad, and the motivational entrepreneurial life has to offer. After all, life is too short to make all of the mistakes yourself, so why not learn from each other? And of course, we're going to have some fun, because as I always say, well, you know what? I'll tell you that at the end of the episode. So besides actually interviewing people on podcasts, my second favorite thing is to actually be a guest on other people's podcasts. And I've kind of been doing like a mini tour lately of it. But one question has constantly been coming up, and that is, what is my idea of success? And my answer has always stayed the same, but I find it really surprising how many times people that are interviewing me say, "Oh, I've never really thought of it that way." And so that's what spurred the idea for this episode and talking about why your idea of success is okay to change, even if you haven't accomplished it yet. So let's dive into what I mean by that. Your idea of success should not stay the same from the moment you opened up your business. This should be something that's ever evolving, and it should actually change every time your life circumstances change. So, in on the good side, if your business grows, if you all of a sudden take on a new partnership, if you decide to change or pivot, these are all moments that you have to sort of sit down and reassess, what does success actually mean for me? Same goes on the opposite. If you have a loss in business due to it just being summer, maybe you have a business that's in a touristy area, so you're in the off season, it's not going to be and shouldn't be the same as what it always is. And the same thing goes for events that happen in your personal life. If you're starting a family, if you have illness in your family, if you yourself find yourself all of a sudden ill and having to take a step back, which I've experienced almost all of those. And I was really scared because I used to beat myself up a lot going, man, I'm 100% not hitting these goals. I'm being really unsuccessful right now. But the truth is that as your life grows and as you sort of take on different things and different things happen to you, it's really important to make sure that you're shifting your goals and your ideals of success because they shouldn't stalemate. They shouldn't stay the same. It's not like a business plan that most people do once and then leave it on the shelf and just go with it because, sure, yeah, we'll just go with that. Because so much of your motivation, of your sense of, yeah, we're on the right path. This is what we want to do, gets tied and embedded into how successful it is that you're feeling in your business. Now, by no means am I saying, oh, if you're not hitting your goals, then just lower your idea of success so you can always feel successful. It's not about that, but it's really about taking time to sit and assess what truly in this moment of my life is going to make me feel successful dealing with everything that I have to deal with, all of the background stuff that nobody else in your business sees. So let me give you an example of myself. And this is one I've given on interviews that I've done recently. When I first started my business way back in 1998, my idea of success was fame and fortune. That's what I wanted. I wanted to be able to walk into a room and people know my name. I wanted to be able to take trips. I wanted to be most of them were work trips because I was obsessed with works. I wanted to be able to get coaches that I wanted. I wanted to be able to buy programs, and I didn't want to have to think about it or save for it. I wanted to be in a financial situation that I could be like, "Ooh, this looks like fun. We should go and do this," and be able to go and do it. So for me, at that moment in time, that was my drive for success. Once I could get there, I would feel really successful. And I made it there, and I did feel really successful. I was like, "This is awesome. This is great." But what then happened is I decided met my still husband, and, no offense, Glenn, you'll be my always husband. I always word it weird, like he's, my first husband. But I met my husband and we, got engaged and we started talking about starting a family. And I realized that, that drive for success, that, wanting for the fame and fortune was kind of becoming more of an obligation than a passion. Because what I really wanted, because I was later in life, I was in my late 20s when we met, was to really dive into having a family, being a mom and everything that entailed. But how do I do that? How do I do that with still struggling to gain that fame and fortune and all the other stuff that made me feel really successful before? And that's when I started playing around with this idea of maybe my success shouldn't stay the same throughout my whole life. Because now what would feel so successful to me, I was pregnant at the time, was time. It was just time. When this baby comes, I want to be able to just take time off. I want to be able to, go, hey, the baby is sick and needs me. So I'm not going to be in the office for a day, or 2 days or a week or whatever. Or I don't want to put my child in daycare. I want to be able to see those monumental moments. I want to be the one who sees him walk first and talk first and all of those other firsts. So time became something that if I could get that time, that would feel so successful to me. And so I changed my thinking around what success was. It was no longer the fame and fortune. It was really how can I construct my life? How can I construct my business to give me time? And when I learned how to do that and I started taking on, assistants and other partners in all of the businesses, and I started getting that time where, it came up, my son, ended up coming down, was sick for a couple of days, and I didn't have to worry about it. I knew I had people that I could just call and go, "Hey, listen, my son's not feeling too good. I'm going to be at home for a couple of days. I need you guys to hold down the fort." Knowing that I only had to make that one phone call, knowing that I had the ability to kind of just call in sick and things were going to still run as they needed to run. Oh, that felt like so much success for me. And that went on for a lot of years. And that's the thing. It's not this short-lived thing sometimes. This idea of success went on for 16 years. That my idea of success was, kind of that time crunch. I wanted to be able to be available to him. Now, of course, the fame thing kind of faded a little bit, but the money thing was still there because now I had a family to support. So I wanted time, but I didn't want to lose money in order to gain that time. So although the ideas of success were just kind of multiplying with each other and kind of combining together and maybe deviating a little bit, they were still sort of the same idea. And I was growing on that. So I had a long stint of being able to financially support myself and have all of the time that I needed to go to school events, to be there when he was running, track, to sporting events, to whatever was going on in his life. I wanted to make sure I was in the stands. That idea of success lasted, almost a decade, over a decade. And as my son started getting older, any of you out there listening or watching on YouTube have kids, you know that there's a little switch that happens, and all of a sudden your kids couldn't care less of whether you existed or not. And it hurts us. And I don't know if you're anything like me, but I called my mom and apologized because I know I treated her exactly the same way. But it was really devastating to me. But I realized, you know what? I don't need that time anymore because he's doing exactly what we've been training for 14, 15 years at that time, turning into his own person. And I didn't need that instantaneous time or the large amount of time available to me anymore. But I knew that eventually I was going to be an empty nester. I had an only child. What was I going to do after that? Did I just want to go back to fame and fortune being my idea of success? Where was I now? And so it was at that moment that I went, you know what? I'm heading into this moment of my life that I know a big life change is going to happen. So I'm going to sit down and look at my goals and look at my idea of success and decide whether or not I want it to look like it did in the beginning, like it did for the past decade, or do I want to invent something new? And because I had created that freedom of my success, my idea of success is allowed to change throughout my life, it wasn't frightening. I didn't feel like I was letting myself or anybody else down. We weren't losing anything. We weren't giving up on anything. We were just changing to something else. And I really, I took years, honestly, to really understand what did I want this next version, this empty nest version of my life, quote unquote, to look like. And it really came down to going, I've been in business now for a quarter of a century, over a quarter of a century. Like that's a long time. And a lot of people can't say that they've held a business that long. If you're in business, you've heard the stats of how long businesses last. So that was a big thing to me. But I also remembered what it was like when I first started out. And I remember the feeling of loneliness of, all of these people, telling me how do you get to, how you can get from 6 to 7 figures or, how you can, make it to your first million, but all the steps were missing for all the in between amounts. And found it so funny that still all these years, a quarter of a century later, that information was still missing. And so I decided that I wanted this moment, however long it lasts for, I wanted this version of success to be about giving back. I wanted to help those entrepreneurs where I was years ago, just trying to make ends meet, trying to figure out how to get the passion back, not wanting to beat my head against the wall for years and years, trying to figure out how to make it work. I wanted to do what I could to help more people than just the clients I had on my roster. And so my idea of success became, how can I give back? How can I give back to those business owners? And I started by writing my book, How to Collaborate, and, teaching any entrepreneur that wanted to how to use collaborations to grow their business, to grow profits, to build relationships, and to sort of get a leg up, especially when you're in a situation where maybe you don't have a lot of cash on hand. Your business isn't doing too bad, but you don't have a lot of disposable income to play around with and hope that whatever course you buy or whatever coach you hire is going to actually be able to give you anything tangible. And so I started putting the plan together. Now, sometimes these plans take a little bit longer. That idea of helping people was years in the making before I even started going out and going, okay, now I'm really going to work towards this. And this is what I want people to sort of stop and think about. And I hope when you're listening to this episode, it gives you a moment of pause where you can go, there is a buildup to getting to success. And some of that buildup is just simple planning because not everything happens in the snap of a finger. And I see this so many times where air quotes here, coaches that are out there will offer you this $1 million idea. Follow my plan and you can have 1,000 followers by a week. Do this and then you'll be able to make millions. And most of the time, you know what? It just doesn't work because that's not the way life works. Because in between that, there's personal life, there's business life, there's all the other shit that you have going on that just happens, things that you want to do personally, illnesses, healthiness, I remember when I got really, really sick, and then when I started feeling better, the last thing I wanted to do was be stuck behind the desk. I wanted to live life for a little bit. I wanted to, walk more and smell the flowers and enjoy outside because I'd been stuck inside for so long. So when you're thinking about your ideas of success and what you want that to mean, think about, what buildup am I going to need? What blocks am I going to need to start building now so that I can create the foundation I need, that when I go full force in going after this success and obtaining all of these goals that are going to lead to me feeling successful, that I have everything kind of pre-built a little bit. And then that's where the easiness comes. That's where you just take the blocks you've already built and pile them on top of each other. And all of a sudden, you're almost at the top of the mountain. You're almost, hitting the sky because you've done the foundation work for it. So no, success never comes overnight. There's no such thing. There's been years of work and toil and struggle and building and breaking down and rebuilding that's been happening in the background. And you know that if you've experienced any type of success in your business, it didn't just happen overnight. You weren't, you didn't just have a silver spoon in your mouth, and, somebody didn't just walk up to you and say, wow, you look tired. Here's a hug and $1 million. Like, that doesn't happen to everybody. That doesn't happen to the majority of people. I know we all wish it would, but so if you're sitting there and you are ever feeling like, man, I just don't feel successful anymore. I don't know what's going on. Or if you're thinking, I didn't think it was going to be like this. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Why is it like this? I should have been farther ahead by now, shouldn't I have? I want you to take a moment to sit and go, but what truly is success for you? And the most important thing out of this whole episode I want you to take with you is, it is nobody's goddamn business why that thing or that level is success to you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they go, well, that doesn't make any sense. That's not right. You should be going after this or that. You do not have to justify what success means to you to anybody else but you and your heart and your soul. That's it. We get so tied up thinking that our success has to look like everybody else's. Or as an entrepreneur, our success has to be making the most amount of money, growing our company until it's huge and franchisable, or selling it for billions upon billions of dollars and making a shit ton of money. That's not everybody's idea of success. If your idea of success is just having a place that you can go to and work until you want to retire, and sell it for enough to be able to live off of, then that's good enough. If your idea of success is to build a business that is huge, that has stores across the world that you get to franchise, then that's enough. And if your idea of success is just being able to have a little bit of extra income so you can go on fun trips with your family or with your girlfriends, or, with extended family or by yourself, then that is enough. Your idea of success doesn't have to meet anybody else's. It doesn't have to meet mine. It doesn't have to meet your mom's. It doesn't have to meet your partner's. It doesn't have to meet anybody's but yours. Because I think too often we get stuck in this thought process of, if it's not gigantic, it's not enough. And that's just not the truth. And it's a really hard way to live. So still make it something that you have to reach for. Don't kind of go, well, I'm already here, so I'm going to make this my idea of success. Because it's important to have something to always strive for. That's what keeps us going in business. That's what keeps the passion alive. That's what keeps the spark ignited, when we have something that we can work towards. So think about that. What truly would be magical to you right now? If you could redo your days so that they turn out a certain way, what would it be? Would you have more money in your bank? Would you want more time to do things that you want to do? Would you want more people on your team? Do you want to find somebody like a coach or a mentor or a collaborator or a consultant who's going to be able to help you take the ideas that you have in your head and figure out how you can make them a real tangible thing or how you can coincide them with the business that you already have. Then go out and search for that. And if you've ever listened to any of my episodes and you've thought, wow, that'd be great. I would really love to pick her brain. I have discovery calls. They are free. They are no obligation. I don't pitch you on them. I don't try to sell you any of my programs. I don't try to get you in my year-long program. I don't try to get you to do one-on-one coaching with me. I want you to leave a discovery call with me feeling inspired, feeling like you have some new ideas, feeling like you have somebody who's on your side. That's what they're all about because I am in my phase of giving back, as I said before. And that, if I can do that in a discovery call, if at the end you go, wow, this was so much fun. Thank you. I'm ticking off that box and going, that was such a successful day. So you get to be a part of helping me achieve my moment of success. So do not hesitate to do that call. I promise I'm not going to be, that used car salesman trying to, skit you around or tell you, there's limited space if you don't act now, all those other things. I don't do that because the only thing that I want is for you to be successful. So as you go about your day today, I want you to take a moment to sit down and write. What is one thing? Just pick one thing. What is one thing that I can do right now that would feel really good? Mine for this week, because I do change it every week, mine for this week was not bringing my phone with me when I go and have lunch. I do it often. I work straight through. I always have it with me. It's sitting right beside me right now. If somebody messages me, I'm quick to respond right away. But I'm trying to make sure that I take a moment to just shut my brain off. And so this week, that's what I'm ticking off. When I go for lunch, I'm leaving my phone in a completely different room. I'm unavailable for that time. And I'm just sitting for at least 30 minutes and just enjoying. I live in Alberta. We have very limited summers and the winters seem really harsh. So I'm trying to be in that moment of really enjoying a break during my day. And it makes moments like now, it's 4:13 PM right now as I'm recording this, makes it more enjoyable. So also tell me, what is the one thing? Is it something small like mine is this week of not bringing your phone with you when you go for lunch or supper? Is it something else? Is it looking for a coach or consultant that can work with you? Is it looking for a VA? Is it simply sitting down and doing what you said you were going to do? Doing those things you time block, but you're like, nope, I keep putting that off. I keep not doing that. It can be big. It could be small. Maybe it's getting an extra $500 in this week. Maybe it's 1,000. Maybe it's 10,000. It doesn't matter what it is. I want to hear about it and be honest because it is never too small, your idea of success. And no matter what it is that you do, after you write this one thing down, make sure that you take time in every single day to have fun. Because as I always say, if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?